All right. Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday evening. We just hit the button to go. So let's make sure everything's working well. Hello to everyone on the X platform. Hello to my friends on YouTube. And of course, my friends on Twitch. I think everything's working the way it should be working. If you have any questions or if there's any issues with hearing me, just go ahead and type it in the chat. As always, we are having an open panel discussion. If you're so inclined, if you'd like to use something other than the chat, feel free to put it, or rather, use the link that I'm about to give you. It's in the chat right now, but go ahead and use this link, and you can go ahead and appear live, or you can simply call in any kind of comment or question that you may have there. It's in the chat for everyone right now. So, once again, welcome. My name is J.R. Dukes. I'm your host for tonight. This is the channel of what I like to call the free minded patriots. My mission here is all about ending the dreaded disease of indoctrination. I want to help you think for yourself and make your own choices in life. I think when you can think better, understand the world that we live in better, therefore you can live your best life possible. It's really just that simple. I love to focus on current events, politics, and anything and everything to do with the law. And as a matter of fact, some of the issues we're going to cover tonight has to do with Luigi, and he has just hired a brand new attorney. I should say, in all likelihood, his family, who are very wealthy, has hired him a what we would call a high-powered attorney. And I'm going to talk about why that's important, other than the obvious, and why they did not go with the attorney that was representing them in Pennsylvania. There's a very good reason for that. We're going to get into that. Also, we're going to discuss ABC News. Just got done forking over $15 million. The President Donald Trump elect for George Sniffleopolis and his nonsense. It's amazing how the news media, the so-called legacy media, all of a sudden they're kind of trying to change their message. They're trying to be more fair, at least more balanced. You have the ladies on The View at a minimum. They're giving legal disclosure notes every 2 seconds. They'll say something like, we have a legal note, and then they read whatever Donald Trump or whoever they're talking about has to say about the particular issue. And before, they weren't doing that as much, but they're definitely doing that now, as they should have been doing all along. So, all right, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into it for the JR Dukes Power Hour. We're going to try to keep it to an hour tonight as much as possible. Doesn't always work out like that, but we'll give it a go anyways. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment, go ahead, introduce yourself in the chat. Have about 28 folks, 30 folks, somewhere around there in on the X platform. Welcome. You can always reach me on X at Reach JR Dukes. All the other channels, I am simply at JR Dukes on YouTube, on Twitch, True Social, that type of stuff. You can find me there always. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things I have for us on the scroll. Then we're going to get right into several of these news articles that I want to go over. So, all right, let's drive. The first story we're going to take a look at has to do with ABC News. Now, I don't know if you watched this some time ago when this first happened, but you had Nancy Mace. She was talking with Snuffleupagus, is what I love to call him. And basically, oh, George, man, he was hammering her about how she could support, we'll just use different words because I don't want to offend the censors on YouTube, but basically, how could you support someone guilty of assault? It rhymes with grape. And of course, that was simply not correct. That's factually incorrect because Donald Trump has never been convicted of that R word. He has been found liable for some type of conduct, but it was never that. And it definitely was not in a criminal context. So let's take a quick peek at this first clip. This is right off of Nancy Mace's page, and she's kind of revisiting this issue that went on. So let's listen to it for a second, then we'll talk about it on the other side.
I still get judged for it today.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
And I answered it. You're shaming me for my political choices.
I'm asking you a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape.
It was not a criminal court. This was
a civil court.
It was a civil court. And by the way, she joked about the judge.
And just so we're clear, what you heard George just say, he said, someone who has been found guilty of this particular conduct, he used the R word. That's false, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump has never been found guilty of committing that type of crime, either criminally or in a civil context in court. That was a outright lie, and he was given numerous opportunities to correct it, and he chose not to do that. I really wish that Nancy Mace here was more familiar with the facts, because it's kind of splitting hairs. But having said that, it's extremely important, the difference in the civil verdict that was taken against him with this Jean Carroll, whatever her name is, versus actually being convicted of the R word. That makes a huge difference.
Judgment and what she was going to do with all that money, and I find that offensive.
I'm asking you
but
about
as a rape victim who's been shamed for years now because of her rape, you're trying to shame me again by asking me this political question.
You've repeated that again.
I think it's offensive. As a woman, I find it offensive. For my political choices, I've endorsed the man that I believe is best for our country. It's not Joe Biden. And you looked at the dueling rallies yesterday in Georgia. Laken Riley's family was with Donald Trump. They weren't with Joe Biden. The same guy yesterday that apologized for calling her killer an illegal, who wasn't illegal. And here you are trying to shame a rape victim. I find it disgusting.
I mean, you keep saying I'm shaming you.
You are. The question, it is.
How is the question asking you about a presidential candidate who's
You're asking a rape victim.
And there's no question about that. And you've courageously talked about that.
Because I've been raped. I think that's disgusting.
No, I'm questioning your political choices because you're supporting
me. You're trying
someone who's been found liable for rape. Actually, I'm not trying to.
You are. That's exactly.
See, he said it again. He's been found liable for the R word, and that is just an outright falsehood. Well, the good news is that Donald Trump is the type of individual who's going to fight back, ladies and gentlemen. He's not going to take it. We know how Donald Trump operates. Thank God for Donald Trump. And he's just not going to take it anymore. When somebody steps out of line, he files a lawsuit on him. That's just Donald Trump 101. That's what he does. And this was such an egregious, clear falsehood and a slander, a libel, whatever you want to call it, against Donald Trump, now the president-elect. And ABC News also knows that with the new incoming FCC chairman that Donald Trump has appointed, and Donald Trump's posture just in general, they know that they're going to heavily enforce the laws that are currently on the books. And it's very clear that these legacy news media agencies, if you will, they have been violating these rules for quite some time. They're supposed to be somewhat fair, balanced, if you will. If they give one party a certain amount of airtime, they're supposed to give the other party the same type of airtime. Again, it depends on the context and exactly what I'm talking about. But remember this, you might be asking yourself, hey, how can a private company be held liable or actually be controlled by the federal government? Well, the problem for these independent companies, if you will, is that they use public airwaves. So these public airwaves have conditions when you use the public airwaves, and that simply is how the federal government will control these particular companies. So just kind of keep that in mind as you hear about that. But $15 million. Now, I want to be clear, the $15 million does not go directly to President Donald Trump, but it does in a roundabout way. It's going to go to his library. So he's already thinking about his presidential library once he gets out of office. And I think that's pretty commendable on the president. Oh, one other thing too, his attorneys, they get a cool $1 million in attorney fees. You know, the attorneys are always going to make money, right? Attorneys always going to make some money. So no question about that. My friend Zach, thank you for being here. Appreciate it as always. Zach says, listening with my orange man, good kitty. Yes, be sure to say hello to your cats. Zach's got, 2 or 3 cats, Zach? Definitely say hello to all them cats for us, and we will continue to explore the chronicles of the great orange man that we call President Donald Trump elect. All right. This was a repost of something that Donald Trump put on his Truth Social page, and the Trump War Room reposted. I think we need to take a quick peek at it. It says, Joe Biden keeps talking about a smooth transition and unifying government, and yet he races to sell desperately needed border wall for pennies on the dollar. It will cost us a fortune and time to get the exact same wall to replace what has been sold. And the new wall will cost triple the price. It is crazy and must be stopped. We talked about this yesterday. You have President Biden, who is trying to auction off the wall that we need to protect our country, to protect our borders. You have President Joe Biden right now, ladies and gentlemen, selling these panels at auction. If you want more information on that, be sure to refer to yesterday's videos. it's on the X platform and on YouTube. But isn't that completely an outrage? Now, the state of Texas has plans to try to buy back as many of those panels from the auctioneers as they possibly can. But clearly, this is Joe Biden trying to impede the wall, trying to stop Donald Trump from erecting this wall the rest of the way. And it's a shame. I believe they said they spent $300 million on the materials for this wall. And you have an auction company auctioning these panels off at $5 a panel. Completely outrageous, and in my opinion, treasonous. You guys agree with that? Type it in, let me know. I'm curious to hear what y'all think about that feedback wise. On any platform, you can go ahead and respond, and I will have it pop up magically on the StreamYard software. So we talked about that yesterday, so I had to mention that. Also, did you guys hear about these Duke lacrosse players? You remember, it's been 18 years ago. I remember this in the news like it was yesterday. You had, I think it was 3 young men who were accused of the same R word we've been talking about. Thank God they were found now guilty. Well, her accuser has came out now. She's came out, and apparently she's in jail for committing some type of second-degree homicide she was found guilty of, and she's had a come-to-Jesus moment, and I think that's great. Everybody should have a come-to-Jesus moment. No problem with that. But she admitted that she made the whole thing up. It was a complete fabrication, ladies and gentlemen, a lie. I don't really think lying gets any worse than this. Now, apparently there's not going to be any type of price she's going to have to pay for this because the statute of limitations has definitely ran from 18 years ago. And really, I think that's a good thing. I think that she has come forward and admitted this. And I think it's a good thing in as much as follows. This is the reason when someone is charged with a crime, we need to always remain calm. We need to make the state put on their burden of evidence. Just because somebody makes an allegation, and I want to back up slightly, in this new Me Too movement that we got, we have to be careful, my friends. We have to be very careful, because now you hear people saying, hey, if someone makes the allegation, we need to assume that it's true, and we need to basically do everything we can to make sure that the guy goes to prison. And this is the kind of story that is a cautionary tale. And it shows one of the many great things about our justice system. I complain often about the justice system, but one of the good things about the justice system is that we have a system that's adversarial by design, by nature. That's the way we've set it up. And we hold the state or the federal government, depending on the venue, we hold them to their burden of proof standard, which is supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just important to remember that in context. And I come across this clip. This was pretty cool. This is President Donald Trump. I believe he's going to be the I forgot his exact title, but like chief of staff or something along these lines. He, back 18 years ago, came out and was defending these players. He was one of the very few voices that was basically expressing his concern that these charges could be fabricated. And of course, this is Stephen Miller. I want to take a quick peek at this, and then we're going to get to the comments that are coming in on the story. Let's take a quick listen, then we'll talk about it.
For many students when I say that we're very, very concerned.
And yes, you're looking at Stephen Miller right there on your screen 18 years ago. Isn't that amazing?
That 2 innocent people may have possibly just had their lives ruined.
Lord, your first concern is that somebody's falsely accused?
Oh, and let me tell you, Nancy Grace here, this is her 18 years ago. She is the world's worst at assuming that if you're charged with a crime, you're guilty. As far as Nancy Grace figures it out, if you are on the TV screen, if you've been charged, if you've been arrested, you're guilty. And that's just the way she is. Now, I understand why she is like that. Apparently, unfortunately, she had a fiance. She was very close to being married, and I think her fiance was killed, obviously by a criminal. And ever since then, she kind of has adopted this attitude, this no prisoners taken attitude. And she's always been very fierce and very feisty, I guess is about the best way to say it. And you can see how she was even back then. She's enraged that Stephen Miller could even put up the possibility that these people could be innocent.
Don't tell me what my first concern is.
I was disturbed to see how people were saying, why aren't they coming forward? Why aren't they saying what happened? Why haven't they spoken out?
That's enough on that. I just wanted you to see that. I thought that was pretty cool and pretty remarkable. Actually, it was Jack Poso. He said 18 years ago, the only Duke student went on mainstream media to defend the Duke lacrosse players. His name is Stephen Miller. So we all know about Stephen Miller. All right, let's see. Zach says, could there be a rational reason such as there are newer, better materials to use for the wall? Zach, I don't think so. The wall has already been designed, has already been implemented. I mean, there are large sections of this wall that have already been built. It's basically like a puzzle piece. You just keep putting one piece on and keep on going. But no, I do not know. Now, if you know something that I don't know, feel free to let me know. Just type it in the comments or text me accordingly, like I always invite everybody to do. But no, it's not that there's anything that there is no reason to sell these materials off as fast as they're trying to sell them off for scrap. President Biden is trying to hinder the construction of this wall. It's just pretty open and shut. That's a very valid question, though. I appreciate you asking it, but I do not know of anything that even remotely resembles something of rational reason why you would do that. As a matter of fact, as we just read, President Donald Trump elect has came out on True Social and said, what? Stop. If there was anything along them lines, Zach, I'm sure he would have mentioned it at the time. But thanks for the question. P. Heck, man, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. President Trump, go after more of them and get all your money back from these sham cases. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if y'all have been watching. I try not to watch, but I do watch because that way you guys don't have to watch. A lot of times I'll watch The View or one of these other very painful programs that are very difficult to watch. And these women on The View, they are interesting sometimes. These people are crazy on there oftentimes. And the deal is this, every time they say something and they're being very nasty as they normally are against President Donald Trump, they always have what they call a programming note, which is just shorthand for a legal notice, a disclaimer, if you will. And they hate to read these legal notices, but these legal notices are very common now. They're very frequent, and ABC is not taking any chances. And in large part, it's because of what Donald Trump is doing. He's not taking it anymore. If these people are going to go ahead and spread these outrageous lies against him, these lies are outrageous, he's not going to take it. He is going to stand up for what's right, for what's going on. I think it's just that simple. Hello to everyone on X. We're almost at 50 people on X, and got 10 or so on YouTube and our friend on Twitch. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate that. All right, Ricky, thank you for being here. See, that's Nancy Disgrace. Yes. My thoughts on her are somewhat complicated. I do understand why she is the way she is. If you look at anybody for that matter, and you're like, I don't like that person, or that person just rubs me the wrong way. If you look at their past, and you look at the experiences they've been through, a lot of times that will explain why they are the way that they are. And I'm not saying this is an excuse for bad behavior or for going after innocent people the way she goes after them, in my opinion, at times. It just gives us a perspective, basically empathy that we can have. But your point is well taken. Thank you, Ricky. My friend Matt, thank you for being here. So we are here. It's us, I guess. Yes, Matt, thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody. Okay, looks like we're getting... Hey, Sapphire, thank you for being here, my friend. I appreciate it as always. Matt, will the Orange King wash his hands of Ukraine? Myself, I don't mind. Yes, I think that he is going to work expeditiously to make sure that this war over in Ukraine is stopped. What kind of nonsense is it that you have all these Dems, these woke Dems, shaming everyone for talking to our enemies? They'll say something like, oh, you're making that person legitimate by talking to them, like Kim Jong-un or even Russia's Putin. Well, I don't know about you, but when someone has 7,500 nuclear warheads, that's legitimate in my mind. And it's like President Donald Trump says, you have to talk to your enemies. Of course you do. You have to sit down and discuss your differences and your problems. And we've talked about it many times on this channel. I'm a patriot. I bleed red, white, and blue. But I can tell you, the United States does not have clean hands in this Ukraine situation for many reasons. The main reasons are we have been put on notice and we have been warned repeatedly to stop expanding NATO, to stop it. This goes all the way back really to the late 1980s, definitely the early 1990s. Even Boris Yeltsin, who was very friendly with the United States, was not happy about any expansion plans with NATO. Him and Bill Clinton talked about that repeatedly. And to give you my really quick example of what I'm talking about, imagine if the great state of Texas, they actually have a constitution that allows them to leave the Union. I don't think the Union, any president would allow that to happen, despite what the agreement is when they join the Union. But I digress. If the state of Texas, for example, was to split from the country, let's say they split, they're no longer part of the United States. They are, again, the country of Texas. And then 30 years later, they decide they want to befriend and cozy and BFFs and enter some type of war pact with Russia. What do you think the response would be of the continuous United States or the United States as a whole? It'd be no, it'd be hell no, no, no. It just ain't going to happen. And that's exactly what happened in this situation. You had Ukraine. Ukraine has been part of Russia for a very long time. I'm not an expert on world history or even Russian world history, but I will tell you how close Ukraine is to Russia. We remember Mikhail Gorbachev from the 1980s. He had a lot of interaction with Ronald Reagan, our president at the time. And Mikhail Gorbachev, of course, in large part, along with Ronald Reagan, they are all responsible for the fall of Russia and the modern Russia, which we consider obviously a good thing. When it happened, when they fell, the Iron Curtain fell. I mean, this has been a great thing for the world. Well, Mikhail Gorbachev's parents, I think his father was Russian and his mother was Ukrainian. He said when he was a baby, his mother would put him to bed singing Ukrainian lullabies. And I guess we can all get that. We can all get our mind around that. So I just want to answer that question for you there, Matt, and I hope that helps you out. Yes. Sorry I missed your thing on climate change, Sapphire. I'll go back and take a look at it later. And yes, Donald Trump's got a lot going on his plate right now. The trade imbalances, free trade, whatever. There's a lot going on. It's going to take time for him to get all that lined up. But you know what? Don't you guys just have a overwhelming sense that things are going to be good, that things are going to be okay, that we have adults back in the room and things are headed in the direction that we should all rejoice, that we should all be happy about? Can you imagine, God forbid, if we were looking at President-elect Kamala Harris? Oh man, that just kind of makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Oh, let's see. Zach said, when I hear Nancy, I think Pelosi. Yes, and insider trading. Absolutely. Yes, Sapphire, her fiance got murdered. And that's one of the reasons she went to law school. I believe at the time she was working, or she started working as a prosecutor, and you did not want to be prosecuted by Nancy Grace. I believe she worked in the Atlanta area. Don't quote me on that. But I do know that nobody wanted to go up against her. She was just way too passionate about whatever case she was handling or she was responsible for. All right, heck, man. Let's see. I heard someone is burying all of the wall back and giving it back to President. Yes, we talked about that yesterday too. The state of Texas specifically has set aside, I think they said $1 billion, a B with a billion. And they are actively on that website that is going to auction off the wall. And they have intention to buy back every single piece and donate it back to the federal government. So amen for that. And let's hope that works out. But that is true that you heard that. Matt Smith, we shouldn't be hurting other Christian people. Rome East, don't hurt. Yes, amen to that. No one should be hurting anyone else. Exactly, Zach. And she is from Atlanta. I thought she was. I couldn't remember. But great commentary. I appreciate everybody contributing there. Okay. All right. So we have This was another moment. This is one of the many reasons we all love and admire President Donald Trump. You know, when you think of the election, I know that if you look at the Electoral College, it's clear that there was a blowout in the Electoral College. And it is amazing that President Donald Trump was able to win the popular vote, especially the fact that he is a Republican. But I want to tell you something else to remember. He won the popular vote, and yet he had, I would argue, every major news outlet was against him. They always covered him in such a bias and unfair way. Every single story, they would take that story and spin it in some negative light against President-elect Donald Trump. At the same time, you've had a man that's been arrested 2 or 3 times because of the lawfare. He actually had his photo taken, as we all famously know. You had DA Fani Willis hammering him with a RICO charge. I mean, come on. You talk about pulling out the arsenal. I can't think, other than murder, I can't think of any criminal charge that a DA could select to put someone in jail for the longest amount of time. The reason why they use these RICO tools is because, number one, there is a very long prison sentence with each count that you were found guilty of when it comes to RICO. Additionally, the other problem with RICO is it just makes it so easy to prove. It just makes the case very easy. Some of the other statutes pertaining to other cases and other types of criminal activity, they have a much higher standard of proof. The evidence is easier to get in on a RICO case. It's a vicious tool. It's not supposed to be used for this type of this type of club is not supposed to be used on individuals. Originally, when they passed these RICO laws, they were literally designed to go after the John Gottis of the world, these gangsters, these international crime organizations. That's what it was all about. It was never designed to go after people that were engaging, hypothetically, in election interference, or people that were engaging in whatever type of crime as individuals or as part of a company or whatever. It was never designed for that. It was only for mobsters. And of course, that's the reason why you don't give these swamp creatures this type of power, these type of laws, because they always take these laws and basically prostitute it for whatever purpose they wish to use these laws for. I mean, really, it's just that simple. But anyway, let's take a quick peek at this. Remember, this was the opening question, by the way, that Donald Trump was asked. Again, surprise, surprise, ABC News, right? With George Sniffleupagus, right? And this woman's name, I think her last name is Scott. She's on ABC News in the morning, Good Morning America, all the time. And I don't think of them as a fair organization
My
at all
question,
when it comes
sir,
to the news.
Now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner.
I love it.
You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
There you go.
And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for.
I love the way he answers these questions, and he takes on the questions head on. And just for a quick piece of context, remember, Kamala Harris would not even show up to a Black Journalists Association. Remember, she couldn't be bothered. She basically gave no interviews. She definitely did not give any interviews that she did not control the interview directly or indirectly. And she simply refused to show up, even though she was invited to attend this gathering of Black journalists. And this is the kind of reception that President Trump
for the Black population of this country. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't.
I love it. I love it. One thing about Donald Trump, he's not going to take it lying down, and he answers these questions so perfectly, so perfectly. It's just one of the many things I love about him. But I had to show you that clip. I come across it researching for this ABC settlement where, again, his library is going to receive $15 million. His attorney is going to receive $1 million. And I think at this point they're all on notice, ladies and gentlemen, that if you talk smack, if you're lying against President Trump, he's going to take you to task. It doesn't matter that he's a public figure and that he is literally the president or was the past president, and that it's a very high standard to prove this at court. He doesn't care. He's going to sue you and he's going to call you out for your misdeeds. It's just that simple. And amen to that, right? Hey, how about this verdict with, you got old Daniel Penny here. Isn't that amazing? This is Daniel Penny. I think I got a photo of him with the president and vice president, but of course here he is with Vivek Ramaswamy. Says our family contributed to this man's legal defense fund last year because he had been wrong, or he was wrong. We don't regret it. Hopefully Daniel Penny has a bright future and a good life ahead. Amen. If you're in New York City and you had some type of problem happen anywhere, much less on the subway, you would really have to pause and think, do you want to help out? Do you want to play the hero and help someone that's in need? I mean, it would be hard not to. But at the same time, you know in the back of your mind that this ignorant Alvin Bragg is in all likelihood going to charge you with some type of criminal activity. A very, very tough, very difficult situation to be in, at least as far as I'm concerned. And how about President Biden? We didn't get time yesterday to talk about this, but you have probably heard by now President Biden has issued over 1,500 pardons in one day. One day. And one of the people that he pardoned, y'all remember that Cash for Kids nonsense? It's been some years ago. This judge that you see on your screen right here, this doofus pocketed like $2.1 million in kickbacks. Kids died as a result of his actions. Basically what he was doing, he was getting money from one of these prisons. That's a for-profit prison. I don't know what that's about in the United States, but a for-profit prison. That sounds like a terrible idea. But I digress. This judge, and I use that in quotes, this judge was receiving kickbacks for sending these kids to these prisons. And some of these kids ended up committing suicide as a result of the stress of having to go to a prison, to be incarcerated at their young age. Just absolutely outrageous that this president is pardoning these type of individuals. And it is what it is. The founding fathers put this in the Constitution. Elections have consequences, and this is part of the consequences. But you know me, I'm not going to leave you hanging on some type of bad news, right? The good news is J6 hostages. President Trump, I think I have an article, we're going to look at that. President Trump has promised that he is going to pardon all of the J6 hostages on day one. So January 20th, if you're watching me and you're incarcerated right now because of this nonsense that happened on January 6th, do not despair. This is going to be your last Christmas incarcerated. President Trump will be in office soon, and your pardon is shortly at hand. So amen and praise God for that, right? I have also been really passionate about talking about free speech, talking about immigration. Well, we know that Europe is in a mess right now because of all of this Muslim immigration that has been going on all across Europe. Immigration is not just a problem here in the United States, it's a problem all over the world, and especially in Europe. You had the former prime minister of Germany, that Hansel, what was that woman's name? Merkel. What a crazy, woke, you can imagine the word I'm thinking of. At any rate, she was the former prime minister of Germany, and she let in, I think it was 2.5 million Muslims. They immigrated from Syria, Iraq, somewhere in that region, and they all just came right on into Germany. And listen, I don't have any beef with any particular group, any race, any color. So I don't want to hear that in the comments or in my text messages. Don't even start that with me. The reality is the Muslims as a whole, they generally do not assimilate in society. That is the problem. People come here to America and we all become Americans, despite what our backgrounds are. It's not the case when it comes to individuals that identify generally as Muslim. They keep to themselves. their goals and their outlook in life is completely different than, say, the rest of the population in Germany, France, and even in England. I mean, this is going on all over the place. You have in downtown England, again, we've watched this on this program. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You have the Muslim call to prayer going on in front of Big Ben in England every single day. It's just insane what these politicians have allowed to happen to these countries. And you have a lot of people protesting, getting mad about it right now. They have almost a darn nearly a civil war in Ireland right now over these types of policies that these woke crazies are allowing into their country. And this ties into the free speech, because what they've done in a big chunk of Europe, especially in Britain, is they have tamped down hard. I'm not with a hammer. I'm talking about a sledgehammer. If you go online and you say what I just said, I would be incarcerated. If you go online and you post that you would like to see less Muslim immigration into your country, you'd be imprisoned. That's just the way it is. I saw a video the other day. Somebody was praying outside openly, and the police showed up, the English police, and they wanted to know, hey, what is the nature of your prayer? They wanted to know what this person was praying about or praying to. I'm not making this stuff up. We've looked at it on this channel, and I'll have a whole lot more to come about this. But the reason I put this particular clip up here is you have a brave Polish woman. That's what the heading says. Brave Polish woman issues warning to Islamic migrants trying to invade Poland. Her message is simple. This is Poland. Here, Jesus Christ is King. Amen. Let's take a quick listen here.
Islamskiej mamie.
Well, obviously it's in a different language, but I'll read the caption to you. It says, this is our country, and our country, this is our land, our country, our rules and values. Here, Jesus Christ is our King. Amen. I don't know. When I saw that, I thought that was fantastic. So I wanted to share that particular clip. Here's President Trump today with Daniel Penning. So amen to that. Now, one of the stories too that we're going to get to in just a minute, breaking news on Fani Willis. I was talking with my friend Sapphire about this earlier, and I actually came across this woman. And this woman, by the way, Sapphire, is the same woman I think you were talking about that was on one of the other guys' channels. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but at any rate, she has 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours of this recording, and it's all starting to break and come out now. And you bet I'll keep everyone apprised of this. I've been following this Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, RICO catastrophe from its beginning, and I will continue to do so. Here's the big hoop-de-doo that's going on right now. We'll look at it closely in just a second, but you're not going to believe this. Well, you probably will believe this. I have been shouting as loud as I can. We've been talking about it too. There is a clear conspiracy. You talk about RICO. There's RICO, okay, but it's RICO between Letitia James, Jack Smith. You have Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, all these individuals colluding together. Well, guess what? Guess who is now in the mix as the architect of all of this, specifically the election trial, if you will, this RICO trial involving Fani Willis, and that is none other than Bill Barr, Donald Trump's attorney general. And you know them to have a history that is not too favorable. And you're right, that was on Professor Nez's channel. Thank you. Thanks, Sapphire. That's exactly correct. So I'm going to be drilling down on this. We're going to take a look at a story or two on this right now, I believe. So let's go ahead and switch over and take a peek. And just interesting things going on. And you know what really does my heart good is knowing that very soon, very shortly, Donald Trump gets into office, his team gets in place, all of this information is going to come out. I know that they're shredding everything they possibly can shred right now. They're trying to cover up everything they can cover up right now. But in modern times today, you just cannot do that. There's too many witnesses. There's too many copies of something. When something's on disk and it's on the internet or it's saved on the cloud, there's always a way to retrieve it. It's basically impossible to cover anything and everything up. And once indictments start dropping and people are on their way to prison, you're going to start seeing people talk. But this guy that we're going to take a look at right now on your screen, as crazy and nutty as this sounds, this is real. So let me share this with you. And we're just going to go ahead and share the screen. Okay, boom. Look at this. Our favorite Bill Barr. Breaking news. And I found this, by the way, at usaherald.com is the news site on this. Breaking Fani Willis bombshell. Whistleblower exposes Bill Barr as mastermind behind Fani Willis's RICO case against Trump. This is allegedly Fani Willis that you see in this picture. And then, of course, she's shaking the hand of Bill Barr. Former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr shakes hands with an individual resembling Fulton County DA Fani Willis as media cameras capture the moment, a scene that gains significance amid explosive whistleblower allegations. Here's the highlights. Patricia Lewis Baldwin speaks out. She says she's a Brazilian native. She exposes Bill Barr as the architect behind the Fulton County RICO case. Charges with Fani Willis. Evidence in abundance. She claims to possess receipts, documents, photos, and recordings to substantiate her allegations, which include connections between Fani Willis and Barr's. Judicial Watch, we all know Judicial Watch, they are very aggressively going after Fani Willis, going after documents. They're actually have just filed a new suit to help out Tulsi Gabbard. They're looking for documents from the FBI pertaining to her and some of the swipes they're taking against her. But Judicial Watch implications, ongoing FOIA, this is Freedom of Information Act lawsuits, may take a dramatic turn following the revelations, potentially widening their scope to uncover undisclosed communications, right? So Fulton County, Georgia, in a shocking turn of events, whistleblower Baldwin has come forward with explosive allegation against Bill Barr. Fani Willis Baldwin, a Brazilian native with a storied career in politics, including in the Brazilian Congress, has provided audio recorded evidence. That's what we were just looking at. At least it was part of the recording that she released on her X page. I'm all over this. Guarantee I'm all over this. Provided audio recorded testimony that exposes Barr as the architect of the Fulton County RICO with Fani Willis. This testimony, rich with claims of secret meetings and strategic legal maneuvers, suggests a level of coordination between Barr and Willis that has not been previously acknowledged. Isn't that interesting, huh? She goes on to say that Bill Barr is always in Armstrong's office, and he's always there. They're always in touch, says Baldwin. I mean, it goes on and on. I saw Fani for the first time, a small person, a woman, a little fat. This is all captured, allegedly, I want to hear it myself, on audio recording. And it says Armstrong Williams, a prominent political commentator and entrepreneur, allegedly used Ben Carson as an involuntary mole in the scheme. This is interesting. It also touches Ben Carson. You know, Ben Carson is a good friend with President Donald Trump. But anyway, somehow he is allegedly caught up in this unwittingly, is what it boils down to. What she refers to as an involuntary mole in this game, which could explain why Dr. Ben Carson has not yet received a Trump cabinet offer. Oh, so the plot thickens, right? Patricia's testimony indicates that Williams trusted her and eventually brought her into the inner workings of his business as a personal spear, and his personal spear. This is how she came to witness and document the secret communications between Barr and Williams. Patricia's testimony includes vivid descriptions of meetings, the presence of Fani Willis, and discussions about leveraging RICO charges as a catch-all legal tool. Boom, that's what we were talking about. She recounts Williams' initial reluctance and Barr's insistence on the RICO approach, painting a picture of a strategic legal battle planned behind closed doors. Very interesting. I want to see where this goes. It's going to be interesting. Clearly, there is a huge conspiracy, and if these allegations are true, you basically have a Brutus, if you will, inside Donald Trump's own cabinet. We know that Bill Barr and him have never necessarily been BFFs, especially near the end. But according to this, he is somehow going to be turning out to be the architect of all, at least on the Fani Willis, the Georgia RICO side of this case. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is true. I can only assume that Bill Barr is going to be all over the rest of this too. That's about all that I can gather from that. So it's going to be interesting. Matt says less of the tribe and the commission, too much war and death. Christians and mystery. Yes, Bill Barr is going down. Should get this information to Cash Patel. Oh, I'm sure if it's out there, they're going to get it. Admission with Christian people in charge, peace and prosperity. Zach says, and they thought they would, they'd be protected forever. That's not going to happen. It's all about coming out. And yes, she's been fat shamed. Fanny's Annie has been fat shamed, and this clearly is all part of the golden age, as my buddy Matt Smith just explained. I agree with you guys, right on the money. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Okay, now I want to get into this. Luigi. I wrote down the phonetic spelling, so as I mess up his name, as always, I can look over. We're going to switch gears. We're switching gears over to Luigi. So Luigi, interesting stuff going on here. He has been, I should say he has hired, I'm not sure how he's hired, but the speculation is his family has helped him out. Because remember, folks, his family is very, very wealthy, and I believe it's Massachusetts. They have a lot of homes there that that they supposedly have a big portfolio of basically land, homes. They have a golf course, I believe, and this is a little bit ironic that the family runs a chain of basically a assisted living center of some sort, and apparently this was all started by Luigi's grandfather. And before he died, his grandfather set up a trust. I love this story because I love talking about asset protection and different tools that you can use. And that's exactly what his grandfather apparently did a long time ago. We got a story we're going to take a look at because of this case. It may turn out that he might not receive any of this inheritance because there are stipulations in the trust that states you cannot receive money or be considered for an inheritance if you are indeed found guilty of some type of serious felonious crime. And Sapphire, you're right. It is Maryland, not Massachusetts, but it's on the East Coast is the bottom line there. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Matt says an opportunity has presented itself to change the world. Yes. Amen to that. All right. So I want to talk about this attorney for just a second. All right. He has an attorney right now in Pennsylvania. Clearly his wealthy family had to have provided this attorney. And we have heard on many news reports that this guy has kind of taken on a little bit of a de facto hero status, and you have a lot of efforts underway to help fund his defense. And that's fine if that's what people want to do. Clearly, his family has intervened and hired a defense attorney right there out of New York. And this defense attorney, we're going to take a look at her in a second. This defense attorney of his is a high-powered defense attorney. She has also worked as a CNN commentator. Her husband is also a high-powered attorney, and guess who he represents? You probably guessed that he represents P. Diddy. He represents P. Diddy. So the wife is going to be representing this Mr. Luigi here. Why would they not keep the attorney they had in Pennsylvania? This is today's lesson in the law, my friends. Why would they not keep the attorney? This guy seems like he's a decent attorney in Pennsylvania. I know that he has publicly expressed an interest to stay on and to help Mr. Luigi here with his case in New York, which is going to be some type of death case or a murder charge, probably second-degree murder under the laws of New York. He cannot be charged with a first-degree murder as of right now because in the state of New York, first-degree murder generally has to have some type of aggravating circumstance, such as it was a child or there was torture involved or there was kidnapping involved or something along them lines. It's just one of those quirks of New York law, but that doesn't mean he would not face a very lengthy and serious prison sentence if he's convicted on whatever they end up charging him with. So my question is, why would they not use the same attorney? And the reason is as follows. And remember this, God forbid you should ever be in a situation where you are facing some type of criminal prosecution. I prefer to have a civil prosecution than a criminal prosecution. If you're facing a criminal prosecution in a particular jurisdiction, you want an attorney that is from that jurisdiction. It's just that simple. See, these people all work together, and the attorney that he hired, this female attorney, and we'll go ahead, her name is Karen Friedman. Angilafo, if I'm saying it right. So he hires Karen. Well, it just so happened Karen used to be number 2. She worked under a previous district attorney. We all are familiar with Alvin Bragg and his malfeasance and what a woke hack job this guy is. What a loser slimeball Alvin Bragg is. Well, the prior administration had a DA. The name escapes me right now, but this woman, Karen Friedman, she was the number 2. She was basically his lieutenant. So she's very familiar with everyone in the DA's office, the current DA's office. She knows all the paralegals. She knows all the clerks. She's familiar with the layout of the building. This is a area that her husband practices in, and of course, she practices in. And if you're ever in a situation, and especially a criminal situation, where your liberty is at stake, you want a person of a local jurisdiction. I have seen individuals, even in small counties, have some type of minor type of charge. I know, let's just say like a DUI charge. No one was hurt, just got pulled over, had a DUI ticket. When they go in and you're looking for an attorney, I was asked, what would be your advice? I'd say, listen, go talk to different attorneys, go interview the different attorneys and talk to them and ask them just point blank, are you the person for this job? And if so, why? And I would ask questions like, who's going to be the judge in this particular case? Does the judge have a brother or a sister or a wife that is a practicing criminal defense lawyer? I'd be happy to pay you for this information. Does that make any sense? You want to find people that are connected, people that are well liked in that community, people that have a history of trials. That's another thing you want to make sure of. There are 2 types of attorneys. There are what I call settlers, and then there are what I call warriors. And it is really just that simple. The vast majority of attorneys out there, they are all about settling. They are all about pleading out a case. You want an attorney that is proficient at actual trial. Not that they just went to school and they learned how to go through a trial. You want to ask an attorney something like this. How many trials have you actually tried? A full trial in front of a jury in this jurisdiction, in front of this judge, in this particular courthouse? What kind of cases were they? And what was the outcome? I mean, these are the questions I would ask. I'm just telling you what I would ask. I would want to make darn sure that I ask these type questions. You want a warrior to go to bat for you. Now, a couple caveats. If you're broke, you probably want a settler. Unfortunately, you're going to do a longer stint in the prison. It's just the way it is. Obviously, it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. If you try to look for a warrior and you don't have any change and it's a public defender, it's just not going to happen. It's one of the sad things about our criminal justice system. If you don't believe me, just go up to wherever your local municipality is, where the courthouse is, and walk into the prosecutor's office, the solicitor's office, DA, whatever their title is, walk into their office and then ask, where is the public defender's office? Well, when you walk into the AG's office, whatever, you're going to notice, man, they got state-of-the-art computers. They got the latest technology. They got a couple beautiful women in the front answering phones, taking phone calls, right? They got it going on. They got the latest and greatest of any type of software, computers. They have their own investigators. Well, when you go look for the public defender, you're going to notice it's in the basement. It's in the bowels of the courthouse, if you will. You walk in there, it's generally going to be like 1 room, maybe 2 rooms, depending on the size of the county. You're going to see paper stocked up everywhere. If there's a computer there, I would probably be shocked. And if there is a computer there, it's going to be something like I had as a kid in the 1980s. It's probably a Commodore 64. So I'm joking a little bit there, but it's not generally going to be the latest and greatest M2 Apple computer with whatever. I'm just telling you, it's not. That's the way the system works out. And before a case that actually come right here out of the state of Florida, I believe it was called Gideon versus, it was the state of Florida versus Gideon. That case, before that case, you didn't even have guaranteed access to an attorney. It was the short version of the case was the guy was found guilty. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and he's like, listen, I didn't even have an attorney. I couldn't afford one. Supreme Court reversed it and remanded it back to the lower court. They had the same judge, the same jury, and when he had an attorney this time, the jury found him not guilty. And indeed, he was not guilty. They have a movie they made about that if you're interested. So you need an attorney. You need a good attorney. If you don't have a lot of money, it's not going to bode as well for you. One good thing that this kid has on his side is this kid has a family that is wealthy. One other thing I want to tell you about, I have come up with a shocking opinion of this young man here. I have not heard this reported anywhere in the news. I have not had anybody talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it right now. I'm here to tell you, and I'm going to back this up in just a second. I think this young man is schizophrenic. You heard it here now. So in 2 or 3 weeks, a month, 2 months from now, you hear his attorney putting on a guilty but innocent by reason of insanity or some type of defense like that. That's where they're going with this case. This guy's a young man. He's 26 years old. He's at the perfect age that young men, especially, women are generally a little bit older, but young men generally come out, or I would say the schizophrenia manifests itself generally in later teens, early teens, later teens, and especially for men in their 20s. Just the way it rolls out. And think about this. This guy disappeared roughly 6-7 months ago from his family's friends. These are all clear symptoms, in my opinion, of schizophrenia, of some type of mental illness, some kind of psychotic psychosis of some sort. I'm not a doctor. I only play one on YouTube, right? This is my opinion, and I generally am right on these type of things. I think that's exactly where this case is going. You notice when this young man was pushed into the courthouse, he was really pumped up, really excited, feisty. He's clearly intelligent. This kid is highly intelligent. It's very clear that he's a sharp, well-educated young man, but he's had some type of psychotic break. I just think that is so painfully obvious, and I just wanted to share that with you. Let me check the questions here, make sure I've caught up on this. I see near Baltimore related. Yeah, okay. Zach says he's from a wealthy family. Yes, he is. Yeah, yes, they are. They're not. I think a lot of the people that are donating are happy about what he did because there's a lot of pent up anger pertaining to the healthcare industry. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to go into it tonight, but I have another story I'm working on. There's a woman right here south of me in Sarasota that has been arrested because she was talking with her insurance company, and her claim was denied, and she told them something along the lines of defend, delay, depose, or whatever. To my knowledge, she did not make any overt threats like I'm going to kill you or something like that. She just said those words or words of to that effect, and they arrested her. She's still in jail on a $100,000 bond that she does not have. She faces 15 years in prison, if you can believe that. I think that's outrageous. I'm going to continue to investigate the facts. If you don't think free speech is under assault in this country, there you go. Now, don't get me wrong. You can't threaten somebody directly. You can't tell someone, for example, I'm going to kill you, or words to that effect. That, of course, is crossing the line. But insinuating it or insinuating that I'm going to take legal action, that's perfectly legal as far as I am concerned. Free speech is something we need to take very seriously in this country. We need to make sure we protect, and I will check into that case. But I don't want to digress from that. Yes, his family's wealthy. A lot of people are still donating to this kid's cause. I think in part this kid, apparently, from what I can tell, I'm not a good judge of men character. He's a handsome young man. He's highly educated, highly intelligent. People don't like the health insurance industry. The way he killed this Brian Thompson guy was kind of interesting, right? I don't want to say it was cool. I mean, there's no place for violence in our society like this, but at the same time, it's interesting. And as a result, and all the popularity this particular case has garnered, you're seeing what's transpired as a result of it. And yeah, people feel motivated and are happy to donate to this particular cause. It's just really that simple. So, all right, Matt, Cell says, I'm past all the bad. We move forward, remaking everything. Engineering people, absolutely. Let's just keep moving forward. We're going to Mars, cheap. Yes, there's so many wonderful things going on. And Ashley Merchant, I would definitely say she and her husband, they are warriors by my definition as far as an attorney. This is a firm that specializes in criminal law. One other tidbit, too, and I believe their ads are like this too. You want a real criminal defense attorney? When you look for that criminal defense attorney, used to in the yellow pages, it was pretty obvious. But when you go to their website, we talked about this with Nathan Wade. Remember, you go to Nathan Wade's website and it would have 50 things listed on there. And then it'll say criminal law or words to that effect. That's not the attorney that you want. You literally, I saw an attorney's ad one time and it simply said, so-and-so criminal lawyer, or something to the effect of criminal trial lawyer. That is the man or woman that you want to go talk to right there, at least as a start, because that is exactly what you want. Matt says we are going to lead the world to prosperity. Yes, I agree. Agreed. And yes, psychotic. Zach, you're pulling it up. Okay. So you're seeing it the way I'm seeing it on there. Okay. Matt, we have a choice to do great things. Yes, I do feel so excited about where everything is headed right now. We should not promote smart children, not hold them back to policy. Yes. Amen. Thank you guys so much for all your comments. By the way, y'all are still with me. If you want to do something for free, you can just hit that thumbs up button. I think we have about 50 people, 47 people on X, 9 people on YouTube right now. So you guys go ahead and hit that heart on the X platform or hit the thumbs up button. I sincerely appreciate your efforts just the same. Let's go ahead and hit through some of these articles here. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on any particular article because there's so much information I want to go over, but I sincerely hope that I answered any questions that anybody may have pertaining to how do you hire an attorney? How do you look for a particular attorney? And in this case, a criminal defense attorney. I want to back up and say one other thing too. When you are looking for an attorney, before you do what I just told you to do, I would always ask the following question. My name is so-and-so. I'm looking for an attorney. I want to know if you have a conflict. In other words, could you represent me? My name is such and such. It's a case involving, for example, the New York City, Alvin Bragg's office. And you want to make sure they don't have a conflict. And the reason for that is there's a lot of attorneys, for example, maybe a particular criminal attorney does a lot of work for New York City or their office, or on the side they work as a prosecutor. You want to make sure there's no conflict. And the person that decides if there's a conflict is the attorney. That's how that works. And then if that works out and that quick litmus test, if you will, is okay, then you can go ahead and start carrying out what I just said. My guess with this attorney, this Karen Friedman attorney, my guess is that her, or I should say his mom and dad, Luigi's mom and dad, probably had their attorney locally in Maryland or whatever state y'all said that was in. I know my friend Mark was telling me, oh yeah, Maryland. Thanks, Mark. In Maryland, I'm sure they did it themselves, or they had their attorney look up who is the litigator, the warrior, if you will, out of New York City. And that's exactly what they did, ladies and gentlemen. Guarantee it. All right. Luigi's defense lawyer, Karen Freeman, has a surprising Diddy connection. All right. So let's take a quick peek at this. A husband and wife legal power couple are now leading two of the nation's most high-profile criminal cases. Luigi retained Karen Freeman for his legal defense in connection with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomas. The 26-year-old alleged assassin hired the top New York attorney to represent him in the forthcoming legal proceedings in the Empire State. Friedman, a veteran of New York's criminal justice system, also happens to be married to Mark Angelifo, who is helming, he's the captain, if you will, of Sean P. Diddy Combs' criminal defense. News of her hiring came hours after Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, we all know Alvin Bragg, and we love Alan Bragg, right? Or Alvin Bragg, says Maggiano, I wrote the phonetic spelling down so I could try to say the name right, may stop resisting his extradition to New York. The resisting the extradition, just to be clear, is kind of the only good that can come out of it is they may be able to extract more information from the government on what type of alleged evidence they have. That is pretty well what I could see as a potential benefit. I know a lot of the talking heads on the news say, oh, there's no reason he needs to just go ahead and go back to New York. No, I totally disagree with that. I think on certain cases, at certain times, there could be a benefit of getting information, and sometimes a delay could work to the benefit of the accused. Sometimes not, sometimes yes. Again, it depends on the specific case, but his extradition to New York is a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of how long it takes to get him back. Sometimes these things could take a month or two. It's just the way the system works. So anyway, attorney Alvin Bragg said this guy may stop resisting his extradition to New York, where he faces a murder charge. Again, second-degree murder. He's currently being held in Pennsylvania jail without bond after he was arrested at a McDonald's following a days-long manhunt. Indications are the defendant may waive, Bragg said on Friday afternoon, but that waiver is not complete until a court proceeding. So that's where this is where this at. Now back to this attorney. She is a tenured as a prosecutor. So she started as a prosecutor. A lot of defense attorneys are that way. So that's actually a good thing. They have worked on the other side. They have worked, for example, for the prosecution office, for the prosecutor's office, specifically her work at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Bingo, that's what you want. May be a key asset in her defense of Maggiano. I'm just going to go with Luigi. I like that better. All right. Friedman spent the majority of her career as a public servant working at the Manhattan's office, including as its chief assistant district attorney. I love these credentials. From 2014 to 2021, she was the second in command under DA Cypress Vance. That was the DA from 2014 to 2021. Then Bragg came in as of 2021, 2022, during which she recused herself from the Harvey Weinstein rape prosecution due to her husband's work with the disgraced movie mogul's defense attorney. She's got much experience, as much experience as any human being, especially in the state of New York in that particular court. A former colleague of Freeman told CNN. She knows every corridor, every judge, every clerk in the courthouse. Boom, what we were just talking about. In 2021, Friedman switched judicial sides, joining her husband's firm. And he has a firm called Agiafo Intrator, whatever the guys. These attorneys a lot of times have names that are 25 cents long. So, all right, they have experience navigating national media. And this is a picture of her, by the way, back when she was the second in command under DA Cypress Vance, who, of course, preceded Alvin Bragg's office. So she looks similar to what she looks like now. She's a frequent legal commentator, was formerly a legal analyst for CNN, and is currently the legal advisor to Law and Order. Her weekly legal podcast is said to attract hundreds of thousands of listeners. While she has yet to comment on the United Health's case publicly, the attorney in Pennsylvania told The Independent that he anticipates that Luigi will plead not guilty to the second-degree murder charge as well as to the other counts in New York. So it's moving along exactly how we talked about. Okay, so let's bounce on and let's talk about reasons why I think this kid is suffering from schizophrenia. Okay, this is just something that I typed up, and we can take a peek at it together. Now, in full disclosure, I got a lot of these points off of the internet, and of course, I love AI. AI is such a great tool. It's not always correct, so you got to double check it, but this is what I came up with there. The behaviors that we've been talking about, because I put in all the behaviors that I saw or that have been publicly reported pertaining to Luigi. And specifically, I'm talking about the fact he withdrew from his family, that he seems to have these violent outbursts, just all the different behaviors that we all know about. I basically put all this in, and this is what I came up with here. It says, the behaviors you described could indeed raise questions about whether the individual is experiencing the onset of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia typically emerges in an early adulthood, often between the ages of 16 and 30. Remember, Luigi is 26 years of age and can include behavioral patterns like withdrawal from social interactions, isolation, and significant changes in the thought process or emotional responses. So here's the breakdown. Number one, withdrawal from the family and social circles. And that's exactly what Luigi did. He left his family 6, 7 months ago. His mother, if you remember, said she hadn't talked to him since what, like July? And then she ended up, I think it was in November, ended up filing a missing persons report for the police. And that was one of the things that led to one of the tips that were actually called into the FBI, yet it was not processed at the time of his arrest in that particular McDonald's. It says schizophrenia often begins with social withdrawal, where the person isolates themselves from family and friends. This detachment may stem from paranoia, feelings of distrust, or beliefs that others cannot understand them. This kind of relates to this guy, right? He did not trust society. A lot of the things that I've looked at on his X platform, he was kind of aggravated with society, the way society looks at the roles of men and the roles of women. It goes on to say, if the individual went off grid and chose isolation despite a wealthy, supportive background, it could indeed indicate they were struggling internally and avoiding close relationships. The second thing, radicalized thinking, bingo, for old Sergio. Developing self-radicalized or extreme ideologies can be linked to distorted thinking patterns. Schizophrenia often causes delusions, fixed false beliefs that aren't grounded in reality. These beliefs could lead someone to adapt extreme worldviews, especially if they feel persecuted or alienated. And friends, I'm sure that his obvious back pain, his back surgery, as we've discussed on this channel, kind of played a role in this. And we also talked about during another program that there is the possibility that this kid might be gay and he's having trouble processing that fact in his life. And in addition to that, when you have those type of back injuries, remember we've talked about on this channel, this kid might be having performance issues because the nerves that control that area of the body run through the spine and through that area of the body where he had all that surgery done, all them pins put in there. And you could imagine, especially at age 26, that could definitely cause problems, to put it mildly. I mean, I could make a couple jokes, but I won't. All right, so the moving on says, for someone with high intelligence, delusions might seem rational to them, making their behavior harder for others to initially detect. Change in behavior is another thing, and clearly this is what happened to this kid, a sudden shift in lifestyle, such as leaving a stable environment and living in a solitude. This is often a red flag, and clearly that's what this kid was doing. You have a mom and dad that are loaded with cash, loaded with money. You're living a very wealthy lifestyle, let's call it that. And when he was found, the pictures and stuff that I've seen clearly show him somewhat, he looked a little disheveled to me. He had just he just looked like he was somewhat homeless. He didn't look like he was shaven. And he was definitely by himself. He had his mask on almost at all times. When he was staying in that hostel in New York, he was not engaging with anybody. Remember all those reports? He only removed his mask when he was taking a bite of his food. And the only reason they even had a full face shot of him was because that woman at the that took his information at the hostel essentially started flirting with him and got him to drop his guard, so to speak. So she said, hey, can you pull down your mask so I can make sure it matches your ID? And he went ahead and complied with that. So clearly this fits him. Change in behavior. It said this could suggest an onset of negative symptoms like lack of motivation, emotional flattening, and basically where you have the inability or initiative to sustain activities. And finally, the fact that he is highly intelligent but erratic leads furthermore to what I'm saying about the high likelihood that he is schizophrenic. Intelligence alone doesn't shield someone from mental health struggles. In fact, those with schizophrenia might display cognitive strengths while simultaneously exhibiting signs of disorganized thinking, irrational decision-making, or inability to process emotions logically. And what that means in simple terms, my friends, is just because the kid is extremely smart does not mean he does not have mental illness. So straight up, easy peasy, right? All right, we're going to dive into this next time. We'll make sure any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments, and you can always call in or join by video, as I was telling y'all earlier, at that link. Let's see here. Yeah, Matt, I have no time for retribution or revenge. We simply deliver good results on pragmatic move the ball for. Yes, amen to that. Amen to that. Matt, if we didn't get them back, product. Yeah. Okay. You guys are hammering that law for good. Good conversation. All right. Now, this is from the New York Post, and this is a brand new article from today. And this is kind of talking about what we just talked about, but they're not calling it schizophrenia. It says Luigi, his grandiose behavior, another one of them big words pertaining to psychiatry, his grandiose behavior, signs of narcissism. Psychopathy experts are saying that could be his potential problem. He's a legend in his own mind. Luigi, the Ivy League grad accused of assassinating United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a Manhattan sidewalk, displayed a pattern of grandiose behavior. Grandiose generally means like where you think you're better than everyone else. You are it can even be what they call delusions of grandeur, where you kind of think you're a king or you think you're someone important. And of course, that's not the reality of the situation. So displayed a pattern of grandiose behavior associated with personality disorders like narcissism or being a psychopath, mental health experts told the Post. There's a level of grandiosity in his decision that his own opinions would merit his complete disregard for some of the most basic laws of our society. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think there's anything extremely wow as far as that goes. We kind of all know that. It says, for him to imagine himself as a hero, it raises questions for me about a personality disorder that's along the lines of narcissism. I agree with that. I didn't think about that. The fact that this kid has repeatedly said that he has to take out these people that, what did he call them? Parasites, called Brian, the Thompson guy, he called him a parasite. In his mind, he's the hero of his own story, and he's got to do what he's got to do to take the action that he thought he needed to take. When the cops nabbed Luigi, 26, at a Pennsylvania McDonald's on Monday, he was reportedly in possession of a 3-page manifesto. We talked about a big chunk of that on this program, in which he raged over parasitic health insurance companies and expressed disdain for corporate greed and power, law enforcement told the Post. Dr. Cohen, a New York City psychiatrist, linked Luigi to serial killers Ted Bundy and Charles Manson, who exhibited symptoms of antisocial personality disorder, also known as psychopathy. All right. See, antisocial personality disorder is when people lack the ability to have empathy and compassion for other humans. With a cold-blooded killer, the cold-bloodedness is literally a lack of emotional consideration, Cohen explained. All right. I think we all get that. Enough on that right there. This is what I did also. This is another little tidbit I found. It's relating to everything. Again, this is with Google's AI, and I wanted to emphasize that he's at the perfect age for this to manifest itself. This does not surprise me at all. The average onset for schizophrenia is in the late teens to early 30s, with men being diagnosed earlier than women. Men typically diagnosed in the late teens to early 20s. Boom. Schizophrenia as a condition is considered early onset if it starts before the age of 18. So it's generally in the 20s for men to develop, or I should say not necessarily develop, but for the schizophrenia to manifest itself to where it can be diagnosed. I think that's pretty well the way to say it. Yeah, psychopathy. Thank you for that. You know, I've told you guys a million times, when it comes to the names or proper pronunciation of certain things, I'm not your guy for that, but you're right. Psychopathy. And Zach, I appreciate that. You know me already, don't you, my friend? I love when it comes down to writing everything in phonics. I used to call that phonics when I was learning. I don't know if that focuses in, but you'll see how I break everything down like that. That's perfect, dude. I appreciate that. All right. Fantastic. All right. Any other questions on here before I move on? All right. Perfect. Thanks again, Zach. You're a perfect mind reader there. All right. This was in the Sun, thesun.com, which is another one of these publications here. It says CEO assassin Luigi ranted online about debilitating IBS. So this kid had a lot of problems. The back surgery that we've talked about on this program, I've read that it was an actual injury, but I think what's going on here is he has some type of autoimmune process. And when we're talking about IBS and these other issues that he clearly has, a lot of this can be attributed to what is generally on the spectrum called at least it's on the spectrum, but they're generally all some type of autoimmune disease. And that injury on his back, what was that called? Scoliosis. I wrote the word down somewhere. It's just, it's generally in the lower back. And I think what happened is it's something he's had his entire life that got worse as he was basically getting older, heading towards 20, 25 years of age. And here's the key. When he was in Hawaii living at another hostel or whatever that high-rise building is, he took up a lot of different sports. You know, this kid's pretty ripped. He's pretty muscular. He exercised a lot. Well, he took classes and was doing a lot of surfing. And from the reports I've read, he clearly aggravated his back and stressed his back with the surfing. I think he had this underlying condition of this spondylitis, the spondylosis, whatever. And because of him, just like any kid, he wanted to get out, he wanted to surf, whatever. That's what caused his problem, exacerbate his problems, probably a better way to say it. He ended up having to have surgery. The kid's probably got some mental issues going on. I'm sure the fact that he's not able to do what he thinks a normal 26-year-old should be able to do did not help his thinking processes. It did not help him rationalize and make good choices. If indeed he was having performance problems, I can only imagine that did not help the way this kid was thinking. And then on top of it, this guy's got some type of major IBS going on. But this kid's life is just fantastic, ain't it? Agonizing back screws and never being able to sleep. So this kid had insomnia, which of course is a condition of several of these issues we're talking about. I say it a little bit in jest, but straight up, you have to have empathy for the kid, at least in the sense of feeling bad for what he was suffering with. It's not an excuse for murder. It's not an excuse to do what he has apparently done. But I'm sure we could all, as adults, as caring people, have empathy, at least for that point, right? Yeah, and Zach says bipolar. I think all these things are on a spectrum, Zach. You're right. He could have bipolar, especially with the mood swings. Bipolar, the mood swings could definitely be bipolar, and that also could be a condition of the schizophrenia. And from what I have experienced, even in my own personal life, not me, but just things that I've seen, things that I just know of, we'll let it go like that, things I know of. I know that a lot of these conditions can kind of just simply overlap, friends. I'm sure y'all have people in your lives that suffer with one or more of these conditions that we've been talking about on this program. But whether it's schizophrenia or bipolar or a combination of these things, it can all start adding up. Sapphire says, what I read is that he went to a surf camp in Hawaii and injured his back. I read that, but what I read was he went there and he did injure his back. But I think what they're going to be finding out is that it was injured when he was surfing, but it become more aggravated. In other words, he had these underlying spondyloarthrosis, whatever the condition was he had, especially in his lower back. And when he started exerting himself with surfing, it was kind of like the end of the road, so to speak, for his back. And it was such that he had to have the surgery that we have seen on his X account, right? Again, we will find out for sure. But thanks for commenting on that, Sapphire. I appreciate that. Anyway, so this kid's got all kinds of problems. He can't sleep. He's not able to think clearly. He's got serious back issues. He's in seething pain all the time. He may be having performance problems, IBS, mood swings. His schizophrenia is just manifesting itself as a 24, 25, I guess he'd be 25, depending on his birthday, 25, 26-year-old male. I would imagine this kid is suffering. It says Luigi ranted online about debilitating irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, never being enough sleep, and his agonizing back screws. The 26-year-old charged with the murder of CEO Brian Thomas left a trail online revealing his mindset in the years leading up to the alleged assassination. And here's a picture of the kid, apparently in Hawaii with some girl beside him. It says Luigi complained about the number of health problems in the years before he allegedly killed the healthcare boss. And then, of course, this is that picture that's somewhat famous now when he was being dragged into that courthouse. He says he's seen shouting as he was taken into the Blair County Courthouse on Tuesday. This other picture right here in the middle, this is one of the ones when he was actually in Hawaii. It says the Health Focus post on Reddit revealed a man who felt his life had been stolen from him by a host of different medical issues. It says his history has come under scrutiny as people look for a motive to explain the shocking slaying caught on CCTV that cops says he's responsible for. Yeah, it says here he had a myriad of medical issues. Under the username Mr. Cactus _Cactus, Mangione wrote about changing his diet due to IBS, battling chronic back pain and restless sleep. In 2023, he posted about how he's suffering from chronic back pain after a vertebrae had slipped. And that slipped vertebrae is the definition of that spondyloarthritis or spondylosis he has. He wrote, oh, there it is, when my spondy, that's short for the spondylosis, spondylosis. He calls it spondy. We'll go with spondy. He wrote, when my spondy went bad on me last year, it was completely devastating as a young athletic person. Seemingly, all I could read on the internet was that I was destined to chronic pain and a desk job for the rest of my life. That representation was terrifying, inaccurate, and completely destroyed me until I realized the silent majority of fusions are highly successful. In February this year, Luigi posted to the site saying he had surgery 6 months earlier to fix his back pain. So this surgery is relatively recent as far as history goes. It goes on and said, yeah, I had L5-S1 spinal fusion 6 months ago after a year and a half of failed conservative treatments, he wrote. I do know this about back pain. When you start having actual spinal fusions, that's a big step. And I didn't really know that that was an option, to be honest with you. Within 7 days of the fusion, I was on 0 pain meds. So this kid clearly had a ton of problems. That's probably faster than most folks. But my point is that your body isn't supposed to be in pain and need meds. Well, that kid's definitely not my age, right? Even after getting my back sliced open and my spine drilled into, I wasn't in much pain. Luigi was reported to suffer, here it is. Here's the big word right here. Spondylolisthesis or something. Let me see if I can figure out how to say this one time. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but we'll try it. It says okay, it's spondylolisthesis. That's what the computer just told me. Spondylolisthesis. That's what it said. And had 4 screws placed deep into his spine to address the issue and help with the pain. It says former classmates of Luigi said he got surgery after he injured his back in a surfing accident, and that this could have driven him to the brink. It just like you said, Sapphire, that he injured it during the surfing thing. I'm not sure if that was the complete situation, or as I just said, he had the spondylolisthesis and the and basically doing the surfing was the straw that broke Luigi's back, right? Not trying to make a joke, but it sounded right when I was thinking about it. It says former classmates said he got the surgery after a surfing accident. It says that he has said he wanted to move to Japan shortly after the accident and lived an almost silent life in seclusion away from his family and friends. One source, quoting former classmates, said they felt the wealthy former valedictorian turn absolute crazy after the operation. Interesting. And yeah, isn't it also interesting? This kid was a valedictorian, and the guy that he's accused of killing, the CEO Brian Thompson, he was also valedictorian of his high school. And when he went to, I think it was Iowa State, he was also valedictorian there. Interesting, huh? And of course, here's another picture of the actual assassination when it was captured. They believe that following the ordeal, everything changed his life, but the back issue was not the only health problem he had faced. He revealed in 2018 that he was not sleeping for more than 4 hours in a stretch, and often waking up 8 or 9 times a night. Well, that sounds like me every night, but I digress. He wrote, sleeping longer than 8 hours has no effect, but getting any less than 8 hours causes extreme exhaustion during the day. He wrote that he was not having caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, and was exercising regularly. Well, good for him. In 2018, he also revealed that he was struggling with IBS and considered changing his diet. And here's that now famous X-ray that was on his X platform. Boy, that just looks painful to look at. And from what I understand from the research I've done on this spondylolisthesis, if I'm saying it right, it's normally affecting what you see on this X-ray. It's almost always the lower back. And if this is his X-ray, it matches up, right? I mean, it's pretty easy to figure this out. And it just looks painful, ladies and gentlemen. It looks very, very painful. The health issues are a stark contrast to his shirtless photo that emerged of him with six-pack abs. Under Mr. Cactus, his profile, meanwhile, he has now been suspended due to Reddit's policies around accounts linked to high-profile crimes. It's speculated that his health could be a motive, as bullets found at the murder scene appear to have a message written on them. 3 shell casings had the words deny, depose, and defend scribbled on them. The message is similar to a 2010 book, Delay, Defend, and Deny. The difference, of course, folks, is that depose. So he put the word depose. That's the different word right there. And of course, depose means like a deposition, which is obviously referring to litigation. Health insurance companies, when they want to deny your claim, they're going to put you through the hoops, right? Part of the hoop process is taking depositions, and many of them. They're expensive, they cost a lot, and they delay time-wise. Why insurance companies don't pay a claim and what you can do about it, written by a insurance law expert, Jay Feinman. X-rays posted by Luigi show his spine with screws implanted. He's 26 years old, had wild outburst moments before his court hearing on Tuesday, screaming about an insult to Americans. As he was shoved inside the courthouse, a judge then denied his request for bail, and prosecutors are now working to get an extradition warrant to haul him back to New York to face murder charges. He was arrested a day earlier when eating at a McDonald's at Alatoona, Pennsylvania, about 280 miles west of the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, where Thompson was killed. A McDonald's employee who took Maggio's order called Alatoona police after recognizing the alleged assassin from wanted posters out of New York. You know, that kind of makes sense, too. Young people generally are going to be working at McDonald's. Younger people are going to be all over the internet. They're all over this case. They're going to be paying attention to the photos. And I'm not surprised that they were able to recognize him, even though he didn't look probably exactly like those pictures. I'm sure that this female or whoever turned him in recognized his eyebrows. His eyebrows are, in my opinion, very unique and pronounced. Says when confronted by the cops, he gave them a fake New Jersey identification, which investigators suspected was the same document he used to check into the Upper West Side hostel before the killing. And of course, it talks about the lawyers and all this other stuff, and it goes into exactly who he is. We know most of this, but it's amazing. He went to the Gilman School in Baltimore. I mean, that's a clear indication that he and or his parents had some money, right? You don't go to that school and you don't have some serious dollars. It's just unfortunate all the way around. This kid obviously lost his way somehow, some way. We've talked about his family being wealthy, right? Well, here's a little thing in the Daily Mail that I think y'all might find very interesting about his family. It says Luigi's family runs a nursing home empire that is accused of abuse. I will say, just for the record, that it's somewhat common if you run a nursing home that there's always going to be an allegation of abuse or that you're not attentive or something along the lines. I think that's pretty clear. I don't think that of itself, that there's been an allegation, necessarily means anything, but we don't know. We'll wait and see. It says his warped crusade against the U.S. healthcare system allegedly drove him to commit cold-blooded murder bustling Manhattan Street, but the wealthy family of Luigi may face scrutiny themselves for operating nursing homes that were panned by inspectors. And the word panned, in case you don't know, generally means criticized, hammered, rebuked heavily, hit with fines, and flagged for abuse concerns, dailymail.com can exclusively reveal. Despite his apparent distaste for capitalism, his late grandfather, Nick Mangione Sr., was an Italian-American real estate mogul who acquired country clubs, a radio station, and a network of assisted living facilities where the alleged gunman volunteered in his teens. It says the for-profit Lorraine Health Services Network, inherited by Nick's 10 kids, including Luigi's father, Louis, promises stimulating activities, restaurant-style dining, movie theaters, beauty spa, and barbershop. But several of the 9 homes located across the Baltimore area have come in for criticism, citations, and federal fines, according to Medicare data reviewed by dailymail.com. And again, I don't find that all that spectacular or that shocking. At least it doesn't shock my conscience. I would expect a big facility to have fines or to have a problem. I don't think any place has ever ran perfectly, but at any rate, an alert posted on Medicare.gov base warns that the 120-bed nursing living home has been cited for abuse. Interesting. It failed to ensure that a resident was free from mental and physical abuse, according to an April 2024 inspection by the Department of Health and Human Services. That's interesting. And here's a picture of his family. That's him right there in the middle, I guess, with the plaid-looking type shirt. And then there's mom and dad on the right. And I guess them were his sisters. It says suspected assassin Luigi, third from the left, comes from a prominent Baltimore family. Pictured is him with his brother-in-law, Paul Giulio, sisters Lucia and Maria Santa, and dad Louis and mom Catherine. Looks like he's got a good-looking family. And this is his late grandfather, Nick Mangione Sr., was an Italian-American real estate mogul. There we go. Okay, other deficiencies highlighted by inspectors involve concerns about the quality of life, infection control, and residents' right. I would imagine if you're in that business, that's probably a difficult business. I mean, you're responsible for the health, welfare, and safety of another human being. That would be something difficult to manage, I would think, and be extremely nerve-wracking. I'm glad there are agencies to keep an eye on these places, but just think about that. That would be a lot of liability, potentially criminal liability. You have to really make sure you know what you're doing and you're on top of your game, taking care of people, especially people that are older and would be in a diminished capacity type situation. See, when you're in something like that, it's more than just a business transaction. You have basically what I would refer to as a fiduciary duty. And when you're a fiduciary for someone else, ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it, as a fiduciary, their safety, their care comes before your safety and your care. That's the definition of a fiduciary in simple form. So something to think about whenever you're involved in a business like this business, or just any business where you are essentially a fiduciary for somewhere else. It says an assisted living home in Buell Rock, Maryland, meanwhile, had to pay $40,422 federal fine for a 2022 inspection. I'm not surprised that they're are fines, inspections. I don't know if you all agree with that or not. If you do, you can put it in the comments. I just think when you have, especially this family, they have multiple homes that they run. I don't know exactly how many residents necessarily they would have in total. I would think if you had enough examinations, they're going to always generally find something. There's always going to be some type of fine. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, but that would make sense to me. And here is, matter of fact, they did their homework on this. Here's a letter from a Division of Nursing Homes for Medicare to Medicaid Services that obviously was sent to one of their facilities there. I'm writing you to discuss a survey condition that has led to providers such and such being labeled as an abuse icon on the Medicare.gov website. We are aware that when a facility has been cited twice for specific abuse in 2 consecutive survey cycles, a facility will be labeled with an abuse icon. That don't sound like a good thing, right? So folks, clearly they have problems of their own, and I'm sure what's going on with their son is probably not helping their stress. It says that it continues on talking about the fines and talking about how much money they've been making in different lawsuits. Here's another picture of Luigi with apparently one of his sisters, and I guess that's Mama right there. It's 2 older sisters, Maria Santa. She's a medical doctor practicing in Dallas, and then the other one's Lucia, married to an artist who still lives in Baltimore. Married to an artist. I think that's shorthand for married to a broke person, and she's living off the trust fund. But that's just me reading between the lines right there, right? The family's home owned, Patriage, owned by Turf Valley Resort in Scott City, Maryland. He also ran a country club and a radio station. Well, they clearly have some dough, don't they? Look at these homes, look at these properties. He grew up in a considerable home, $800,000 home in Townsend, Maryland. Interesting, huh? So clearly the family has plenty of money. I have heard, just in research that I have done, the family might be worth as much as $100 million. So I think that's a pretty penny. I don't think they're hurting for money as of right now anyways. So, all right, that is pretty well what I want to talk about with Mr. Luigi right there. Has anybody got any questions on that specifically? I want to make sure I didn't miss anything I wanted to go over and talk about. This one reporter here, this guy's name is Ken Klipperstein. We've talked about him before. He's got another fantastic story. I'm not sure how he gets his sources or his information, but he's got this one right here talking about United Healthcare. And he's talking about they have put out on, it's supposed to be only for internal employees, but they have went to the mat. And I'll show you the computer screens right here. See this computer screen right here? They have come up with talking points, if you will, of how all the employees should respond when people are asking questions pertaining to the CEO being shot or killed. And it says right here, it says talking points for calls related to event. It says, and this is what they're supposed to say, right? We are deeply saddened and shocked at the passing of our dear friend and colleague, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Brian was a highly respected colleague and friend to all who worked with him. We are working closely with the New York Police Department and ask for your patience and understanding during this difficult time. Our hearts go out to Brian's family and all those who were closest to him. Interesting, isn't it? You are encouraged and empowered to disconnect all calls that are abusive. Report summary of interaction to your supervisor. And finally, change your auxiliary to prevent incoming calls while you take a break. Clearly, they have a disaster response plan. Is probably the best way that I could describe that. And you would expect that. Did y'all know this? This company, United Healthcare, this is not just a company. This place is a monstrosity. This place is huge. I did not realize how big this company is and the kind of money they make. And I understand why a lot of people don't like this company. First of all, the industry norm is roughly 16% of claims that are denied. At United Healthcare, it's 36%. Yes, you heard that right. 36%. It's over double the industry average. I would think the feds are going to check into that. I really have questions. Don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist. You guys know I'm a capitalist. I'm all about making that money, right? We like a country where people can make money. People can do better for themselves. But I've got to say, over double the national rate of denying coverage for people. And these are people that are sick. They obviously need health care of some sort, or they need a surgery or something along them lines. I don't know. When I have the answers, I tell you, here's the answer. When I don't have the answer, I'll say as much too. It is concerning, but this place is huge. Do you know they are, what did I say? The fifth largest. They are behind Walmart, Amazon, Apple. I think they're the fourth largest, what I said. Fourth largest. That's incredible. That's the class, if you will, that these people belong to. Absolutely amazing. I don't know. All right, Zach said talking ports more like dictating what they might or what they may say. That's exactly what it is. They can call it whatever they want to call it, but that's exactly what it is. Sitting, riding on a bike would also be. I'm sure it would be. Yeah, I think that's a good point. But remember, he had that fusion surgery, and he reported at that time he was not having pain. I don't know if he was having absolutely no pain or if he was having pain at the time he was riding. But I don't know about you, Zach. If I just committed a cold-blooded murder, I don't care how bad I hurt. If I had a bike, I would be pedaling away one way or the other quickly. I'm sure I'd have a newfound resurgence of health, and I'm sure you would too. I'd be wanting to get the hell out of there, right? Zach says, I could believe he has chronic pain, but I have difficulty believing he was nonetheless able to sit down and write a manifesto while suffering. I'm sure this kid had problems. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to justify what this guy did. This guy's clearly sick. This guy's got issues. But at the same time, when I dissect situations and cases like this, I try to put myself in their shoes, I guess, their situation. I try to have that empathy so we can understand what's going on, and just common sense stuff on that, right? Any other questions, put them in there for me, and I'd be happy to answer whatever question you may have. All right, we're going to go ahead and land the plane right now. The power hour has turned into the power hours, but I appreciate y'all's understanding just the same. Y'all know that I really appreciate you. I really do. If you'd hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, make sure you hit on the notification, the symbol that says all. That way, when I go live again, you will be immediately alerted. If you're on the X platform, you could hit the heart for me on there and go ahead and just hit that subscribe. Same thing on YouTube and the other platforms. If you guys need me, my phone number and stuff is listed below. So you should have all the contact information. And I just reposted my information one more time for you in there that has the particular platforms that I'm on, along with the applicable social handles. So I want everybody to have a great rest of your Saturday night. Great time to be alive. Christmas season. Everything is going good. Donald Trump is on his way back to the White House. Things are going good. Things are looking good. It's just, it's always a great time to be alive, right? But it just feels so much better, so much more rich. It just feels like things are going in a direction that they should be going. My friends, until we meet again, I hope that the Lord has his Holy Spirit with you and your family, and that you find his special anointing blessing you each and every day along with your family. Thanks again for joining me. I sincerely appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. It is my pleasure to have time to talk with you and to socially interact. I really enjoy doing this type of thing. And again, I do appreciate y'all. I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up, my friends. Until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.